What's up, everybody? It's Zee Inquisition, back again with another Noob review from Nerds Delta. This time, I'm going to be talking about Shadespire, the tactical skirmish board game from Games Workshop. So let's get started on the contents of this box. This box comes with a bunch of tokens, but all of them have their respective place in the game. It comes with character cards. These cards are going to be used to represent each one of your different warriors on the board. Now, each warrior comes from one of two different factions, and those factions would be the Stormcast Eternals and the Khorne Warriors. The Stormcasts are all largely armored, almost paladin-looking warriors. They represent Sigmar, which is kind of like the ultimate good guy in the Games Workshop Age of Sigmar universe. So these guys are like the best of the best, whereas the Khorne Warriors are servants of a blood god. They don't care who they kill or if they die, as long as blood flows, their god is happy. So we have two very different factions on the table, and each one of these cards represents each one of the warriors in these factions' skills. The Stormcasts obviously being more hardy, they can take more damage, though they are still offensively capable. Their powers are much more based around defending themselves and keeping themselves alive, whereas the Khorne Warriors, very little armor, faster moving, and have very good attacks. Both of these factions have the ability to flip these cards over, which improves their powers immensely. The Stormcast, I believe it has to do with how many times they have defended an attack, whereas Khorne people, it's how many people have died, including your own faction, that can cause your warriors to flip over, and it would increase their power instrumentally each time that it happens. This makes these guys really neat and really flavorful on the board because they all have their own little interesting things about each one of the characters. Now, the board itself is two, I would say, 6 by 1 foot rectangles that are covered with hexagons up to the edges, which sometimes have half of a hexagon. The two boards are set up so that you create 3 hexagon bubbles that are connecting on the sides, or you can set them up end to end. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you and your opponent are setting up your board, you both have a deployment half, which is your board, and that can cause some tactical things to happen, because on top of the board you have areas that are marked for objectives. These objectives, besides the obvious goal of destroying each other's little gang of miniatures, these objectives help you gain the currency of the game that will help you win. So you place the board, you place the objectives, then you place your miniatures. Next thing that comes into the game that is quite interesting, I find it one of the things that makes the game flow and makes it different and stand out, is the objective cards. There is a deck of cards that will give you objectives: slay a person, get to objective 4, and these objectives will reward you with the currency of the game. So it's not just a game about killing your opponent, it's also a game about getting to places, about trying to focus on what your hand is, because it doesn't matter if you kill your opponent's army to a man. If that one man has been focusing on objectives the entire time, the entire game will fold against you. I would be remiss if I didn't also touch on the miniatures in this game. Each faction looks completely different. The Stormcasts, armored, as I've said already, in their signature armor, as well as their signature helmets, which are almost kind of creepy because they are very expressionless, and it gives them a very inhuman look. Whereas the Khorne Warriors, very little armor. They're bare-chested, muscles bulging. Each one of them is brandishing their own weapon. Their leader, big bushy beard and a giant top knot. They have so much flavor and character that is really indicative of Khorne in itself. And that is awesome. It really helps drive the narrative of this game forward. Another element of this game, which was very interesting, is that it came with 3 other decks of cards. One specifically for the Khorne, one specifically for the Stormcast, and one that is open. Now these cards come with abilities. The Sigmar ones obviously have many that are Sigmar specific, but also some that are open, as well as the Khorne specific and open. Now these abilities can help you throughout the game do things such as teleport to the other side of the board if you need to get an objective on the other side of the board. Swing twice if you have a poor attack. Things that can really turn the game once again in a matter of seconds from being pro you to being a very negative situation for your warband and your miniatures. So I found that this is really interesting. The third deck is entirely of cards that can be added into either deck. So if you wanted to have a more advanced game and a more advanced match with someone, you could build your own decks to make your army even more deadly based on your play style. So that's really cool. It's a really interesting way for them to take a game from being very new player friendly, but also having an element to allow more senior players or more veteran players to have more competitive gameplay. And I thought that was really cool. If I had to say that there was one negative about this game, I would have to say that is the amount of decks of cards that you have. Having your objectives, having your skill cards, having the cards for your players, having all these cards on the table can get a little confusing at times. But overall, once you figure out a good way of organizing your play area, it falls into place really quickly. I would recommend this game for veterans, for new people, for people who are interested in skirmish games, and for mostly people who are interested in the fantasy setting. You don't necessarily have to be into the Age of Sigmar setting to be into this game. It doesn't require pre-knowledge or anything like that. It just requires you to think that the miniatures are cool and to be interested in one of those things that I just listed. If you're not really interested in skirmish games or fighting people in a board game, then it's probably not for you. If you're not really into the fantasy setting, it's probably not for you. But that said, if you are one of those people that's into the setting, that's into these kinds of games, I would rate this game as a solid 7.5 out of 10. I think if they had found a way to maybe make it a little easier to organize everything, I would be rating it higher. But as it stands, that's where it is. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for listening to this video, and that we are going to be doing a contest soon where we are going to be giving away the Plague Marines that Ashley from Chaos Cult Painting has been painting up in our tutorial video. We will be giving away a full squad once they are weathered and based in our 2 upcoming videos. So stay tuned for your opportunity to win those beautifully painted Plague Marines. If you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook. The link is down in the description. You can also find my personal Instagram and Chaos Cult Painting or Ashley's Instagram on there. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit like, hit dislike if you don't like it. Tell me what you want us to do more of. Tell me what you would like to see more of, and we'll make it happen. So once again, for Nerds Delta, this has been Zee Inquisition signing out.